The Golden State Warriors are red hot to start the new NBA season. They're 2-0, have the number one seed in the Western Conference, and are absolutely blowing out their opponents. But is this for real or is it all fake? I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. Going to keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of the NBA on this 100% independent channel. All right, so the Golden State Warriors, again, great start to the season. Can't complain about what they've done there. And look at that. Oh, my gosh, that is absurd. 38.5% point differential, plus 38.5. That is insane. Typically, we look at point differential to help us really differentiate between the good teams and the top-tier teams and all of that. Typically, what ends up happening is the teams that have the best point differential, over the long haul of the season, it tends to reflect overall on the quality of the team. Sometimes there can be noise just in the standings themselves. You win a game by a bucket or two that maybe you shouldn't have or something like that. You get a little lucky, get a few nice bounces in a few games. That can certainly skew your win total, your overall record. But point differential over the long haul, the longer stretch we get of it, it usually tends to give a better reflection of the overall quality of the team. But are the Warriors really this good? Well, first of all, no. I mean, they're not 38.5 points better than everybody else in the NBA. This is 2 games. This is small sample size, but still, nonetheless, that is an absolutely insane number. Now, we do have to note that not only is it small sample size, they've also had what has to be the easiest schedule in the NBA, playing the Portland Trail Blazers and the Utah Jazz so far. I mean, these are the 2 worst teams in the Western Conference, or at least projected to be the 2 worst teams in the West. And thank you, schedule makers. They've been fed to the Golden State Warriors, both to start the season. The Warriors do have a more difficult matchup tomorrow against the Clippers, who are not projected to be a great team, most expecting them to not make the playoffs, but certainly they should be a better test than either the Jazz or the Blazers, who probably have their sights set already on Cooper the flag. Got to capture that flag. But where are the Warriors finding success? Well, first of all, Steve Kerr is using a 12-man rotation right now, and that's got a lot of people excited. Like, are they really going to stick with a 12-man rotation? Again, these have been blowouts that they've been in, so it's hard to say for sure exactly what the rotation is going to look like. But I'll tell you one big change that they've made, and this is something that the Warriors have been excited about. It's their new starting lineup. There were a lot of questions going into the season about how Steve Kerr would manage things. Jonathan Kuminga swearing that he is a small forward and wanting to play that position. Draymond Green not wanting to play the 5, which would open up potential minutes for Jonathan Kuminga at potentially the 4. Steve Kerr liking going bigger with Trayce Jackson-Davis. Essentially, somebody was going to be the odd man out between the 3, 4, 5 positions between Andrew Wiggins, Trayce Jackson-Davis, Draymond Green, and Jonathan Kuminga. The way the Warriors have effectively solved the problem, at least for the time being, has been that they have just played all of them and decided to call Andrew Wiggins their shooting guard, which is an absolutely massive roster. That's a huge starting 5 with Andrew Wiggins there in that starting group. But that's been the solution that they've turned to, is Andrew Wiggins at the 2. Now, as Steve Kerr has noted, the challenge with having that group out there is the 3-point shooting. And a lot of it does, again, it hinges upon the ability of Jonathan Kuminga to hit the 3. He's not done it so far in the season. In fact, he's not made a 3 yet this season. But you look at that starting 5, Draymond, Kuminga, Trayce Jackson-Davis, TJD is not going to space the floor a ton, but Andrew Wiggins out there as well, and then Steph Curry. You do have some spacing concerns. Draymond Green, traditionally not a great 3-point shooter, usually more of a hesitant one, but can actually get there percentage-wise. We saw it last season. Kuminga, again, has not made a 3 yet this season. Jackson-Davis is not going to do it. So if Kuminga's not hitting 3s, it becomes problematic, as Steve Kerr mentioned. It's not ideal from a spacing standpoint. But so they're going to have to find their rhythm. The whole point of it is for defensive purposes, saying we're doing this for defense. Draymond saying we want that lineup to do well so bad that everyone is coming out and pressing. See, again, that was the problem they had, was somebody was going to be left out that they didn't feel like should not be a starter. And so this is the solution. So these 5 really want this to work. So all of them are on the floor together, but you've got to have the shooting in order to make it work, with Steve Kerr saying that that's the problem, but the benefit is the defensive side of the ball. And he's right. Teams are not scoring on the Golden State Warriors right now. In fact, they are one of the best teams in the NBA on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, you look right here, 95 points per game on average. Again, they've played two really bad teams right now. And so that's going to muddy the waters here. But they are seeing positive returns in terms of the defensive side of the basketball. And moreover, if you look at what the Warriors are doing in terms of steals, forcing turnovers, the Warriors, number one in the NBA, once again, playing bad teams. So that's going to enhance all these numbers. But 14 steals per game. And that's pretty insane. That tells you that the Warriors, they're turning over their opponents constantly. And again, bad teams that they're playing, but that's the benefit of the starting five that they're going to, is you're going to get better on the defensive side of the floor. Now, what's really been the cherry on top here for the Warriors, though, not only are you playing this lineup that you really want to play, that with guys that really want to be on the floor to the point where maybe they're trying a little too hard, which is what Draymond Green is saying, to try to get this team to really work together, because they don't want to give Steve Kerr a reason to bench any one of them and insert, say, Brandon Podziemski into the two and go with more of a traditional lineup with Wiggins or Jonathan Kuminga at the three. Instead, they all want to play together, which is fine, and they're getting it done on the defensive side. They're turning over their opponents. Again, I don't think that's going to be consistently that high because of the quality of the teams they've played, but they're also hitting threes at an insane rate, even for the Warriors. Look at this. The Golden State Warriors right now, 41% from three as a team. Look at the three-pointers attempted. 49 a game. 49 three-point attempts per game. Look at the Boston Celtics, 53. This is unbelievable what's happening in the NBA right now. I don't think it's sustainable, but this is insane. Last season, the Boston Celtics led the NBA with 42.5 three-pointers attempted per game. Right now, 6 NBA teams, again, it's very early, but 6 teams are averaging more three-point attempts than the Celtics did last season when they led the NBA by a decent amount. And the Golden State Warriors are one of them. Again, 42.5 was the high last season. The Warriors are taking 49 threes per game. That adds up when you're shooting 41% from three. On top of that, you're turning your opponent over a bunch. That's creating a situation where the Warriors are insanely difficult to beat. If they're shooting that volume and that percentage from three while getting 14 live ball steals, that is really tough. And now check, this is where they go from being really good to being elite. Okay, the steals, the three-point shooting, the defensive grouping that they've got out there, both volume and percentage from three, but where it goes to that next level to where, now you're blowing teams out and you're a plus 38.5. Here's the secret: the offensive glass. Look at this. Golden State right now tied for third in the NBA, 17 offensive rebounds per game. Again, this team is shooting 41% from three. They're shooting 50% from the field. They're not missing very often. There's not many missed shots to rebound, and they're grabbing 17 offensive rebounds per game. Last year, the New York Knicks led the NBA in offensive rebounding with 12.7 per game. Once again, small sample size coming into effect here, but I've talked about this. The offensive rebounding phenomenon, it is taking hold in the NBA. Teams are realizing how valuable it is. What do you get when you get an offensive rebound? You get one of two things. You get a putback at the rim, or you get an open three. That's what offenses tend to generate off of offensive boards. Those are the two most valuable shots in the half court in basketball: shots at the rim and open threes. And that's what you get. So now we're seeing teams really focus on offensive rebounding. Once again, the New York Knicks led the NBA with 12.7 per game last season. Right now, there are 11 teams averaging more offensive rebounds than the Knicks did last year. And the Knicks crushed teams on the glass. That was a big part. That was their superpower last season. Again, 11 teams, small sample size, but still, that is unreal. Part of it could be some nervy shooting in the first couple of games of the season. Maybe there's some more misses to go and grab. That can certainly be skewing this. I don't expect this number to be this high all season, but that is what is truly boosting the Warriors to the next level. Not only are they shooting a great percentage, they're not missing very much. They're turning their opponents over. And when they do miss, they're getting the offensive rebound. So they're getting all of these extra attempts from these offensive boards, and they're turning them in to threes that they are absolutely draining. Speaking of which, the last bit here that is really what's going on when we look at the Golden State Warriors. Yikes. Look, it's not it's amazing to watch while it's happening. This is not sustainable. Look at Buddy Hield. 75% from three on 8 attempts per game. Buddy Hield's a really good three-point shooter. He's not that good. 75%. That's the greatest three-point shooter of all time. If he continues at that volume and that clip, that's where 2-game sample size comes into play. Draymond Green shooting 67% from three. Andrew Wiggins, 55% from three. Moses Moody, 39%. Steph actually low at 35%, but that's on 10 attempts per game. Kyle Anderson, a new Warrior who I like a lot, but he's shooting below average here at 20%. And then you go again, Jonathan Kuminga, 0%. Has not made a three-pointer yet. But Buddy Hield is not going to shoot 75% from three. Draymond, they've got the Warriors essentially have multiple players that are on heaters hitting at an unsustainable percentage from behind the arc. That's also part of what's causing the Warriors to win these games. So where do we land with all of this? Are the Warriors for real? Or is this just fake? Is this just small sample size combined with they've played terrible teams? I think it's a little bit of both. And maybe that's the cop-out answer, but I think the Warriors did a great job bouncing back from the Klay Thompson situation. I think that they were able to land pieces like Buddy Hield, like DeAnthony Melton, like, of course, my guy Kyle Anderson, slow-mo. They were able to add these guys, and I think in the aggregate make up for the absence of Klay Thompson. Certainly Buddy Hield, the way he's shooting the ball right now, doesn't have Warriors fans wishing that they still had Klay Thompson, despite Klay's success with Dallas in their first game. But I don't think the Warriors fans are upset about losing Klay right now when you've got Buddy Hield going berserk from behind the arc. Again, that's not going to happen forever, but I do think you can make the argument that the Warriors are a better team. I think defensively they've been really good. They've always been a problem on the offensive glass. If this keeps up, the Warriors could find themselves right back in the upper echelon of the Western Conference. And I've talked about this a lot. They also have plenty of contracts that are very, very movable should they decide they want to make an all-in move right now. And we know that they have interest in doing that. They tried to do it multiple times over the summer. Wouldn't shock me if they wind up being really aggressive on the trade market again ahead of the trade deadline. That said, 2 games and 2 games against 2 of the worst teams, projected to be anyway, in the NBA. So the Warriors are good. I think they may put themselves right back into that upper echelon in the Western Conference, given the pieces they've added and the way this team is playing right now. But they're not this good. What we're seeing right now is not sustainable. It will not continue. They will have rougher days ahead. But for right now, I think the one thing we can say for sure is the Warriors are a team worth keeping an eye on because they just may be way better than I think anybody predicted they would be this season. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the Basketball Bulletin. Let me know your thoughts on the Warriors. Is what they're doing sustainable, or is this all just fool's gold because they've been playing terrible basketball teams so far? Give me your thoughts in the comment section. See ya and stay safe.